Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. I've been looking forward to this for a very, very long time. It's been some time in the making trying to get a hold of the product. We've got a new cassette player to look at. This is always an exciting time when there's a new cassette player that hits the market because you don't see a lot of them these days. Now, we had reviewed the We Are Rewind. I'll put a link in the description for that video in the past. And this has sort of become the competing product, the competitor. This is by FiiO, who's known to do fantastic stuff. So I can't wait to see how their cassette player functions. We're going to run a test, a direct feed, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to spend some time with it, experience it, share it with you. You're not going to want to miss this. Okay, this one I've been very, very excited for. And it finally arrived. Here it is, the FiiO CP13 cassette player. Now, we recently reviewed the We Are Rewind, and I love that thing. I use it a lot. It's kind of my go-to portable now. It's got a good sound to it. But I know these guys are out there making a big splash and kind of the latest and greatest new high-quality cassette player out there, and there's been a few reviews here and there, but it's really going mainstream now in terms of availability, and you don't have to necessarily import it. I believe you can buy it domestically. So I thought we would check it out, and also have a case. Interesting packaging here. This is the white unit. I would have liked to get the blue unit, but this is a sample that they sent, and I'm happy to review it. This is the black and white. It's got a simplistic but classic look to it. Packaging is on point. Look at this like holographic mirror indent or inscription there, I guess you would call it. CP13. This is interesting. On the back it says scratch query. Basically, you can verify the validity that this is not a knockoff. So I think that's kind of interesting. So without further ado, man, I've been looking forward to this. Like months in the works. We were going to do this last month, but then there was production delays, and we had to hold off one more month, which ended up being more like a month and a half. And it was worth the wait because here we are opening this up, and let's see what's inside. Probably a tape player. And I couldn't help myself. I had to watch a couple other reviews just because I was so darn curious. I love the fact that we are getting new cassette players out there. So here is the quick start guide, which is illustrated. Like to see that. Illustrations always help. It is USB-C powered, rechargeable. I love rechargeable items, and I know people are always like, well, if the battery isn't replaceable, then you know the lifespan of the product is a lot lower. And I understand that. This is nice. It's got a nice insulation to it. It does not feel like a cheap cable. USB-C. Everything's going USB-C. We've got this little QR code. And then the product, they have a ribbon, so you can easily remove it from the packaging. So if I was just opening this and having no idea what it was for, I would be clueless. But because I watched another review video, I found out this little sticker thing is to help remove the film from the window. So interesting. I've never seen that before. And then this is a little, what is this? It has a warranty card or something. Some QR codes. Yeah, packaging is definitely on point. But we're here for this. It's wrapped in a soft plastic. Wow. Cool, dude. This is exciting. I love this. So it's heavy. It's good and heavy, and I'm glad for that because I'm old school. To me, heavy is quality, and this definitely is. It's aluminum housing, and I wasn't sure. Yeah, the whole thing is metal, so not just the faceplate. I was worried that it was just the faceplate or this colored area. In this case, white. In other cases, blue. There's other colors as well, I believe. But no, the entire device is made from aluminum, it appears. Anyway, I'll have to figure that out. The whole thing is a good heft to it. And yeah, it's a simple device. It's play only. Unlike the We Are Rewind, this does not facilitate recording, which is not a huge loss because You know, the We Are Rewind and a lot of modern devices have DC bias for recording, which renders a only good for speech recording. You were not going to get hi-fi music from any sort of DC bias recording. So you're better off recording elsewhere on some vintage equipment and then playing back on a modern device. Playback is unaffected by that. But yeah, so we've got the nice chunky buttons there. We got a little thumb inset to pull the door open. I've heard that this is pretty stiff. Yeah, that is stiff. Wow. It's almost like it's magnetized. And typical for what I'm seeing a lot of lately are these doors that don't open very far. It seems like vintage units, the door would hinge up a lot higher than these do. But yeah, it does not go up very high. To dispel any misinformation right off the bat, that is a Tanishan clone mechanism. So it's the same physical mechanism that We Are Rewind and others use. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, because the Tanishan design, even though it's implemented now by Chinese companies, not Tanishan directly, they don't exist, it's a good quality mechanism. But it's the basis for a design. So its existence doesn't dictate if a unit is good or bad. It can be bad, it can be good. It depends on how it's implemented. The first thing we want to check is the head. Look at that, it's already powered up and playing. You can see the spindle there is moving. This does use an ES4201 head, stereo head. It is a 2-track head. It's a single direction unit, so there's no auto reverse or anything like that. Once you get to the end of the tape, you have to take the tape out, flip it over, all of that good stuff. However, it does have fast forward and rewind. And if you're scratching your head to that statement, like, what? A lot of units back in the day, you know, if you're a child of the 80s and 90s and you couldn't necessarily afford the best Sony branded Walkmans, you probably have experience with a unit that was play and fast forward only, and you had to rewind by flipping the tape over and fast forwarding, then flipping the tape back. And that's just how we got along. And that was okay. That worked fine. Okay, so on this side here, we have a headphone jack. We've got a power connection with just USB-C, a status light, and a knob with good drag. I think, can't tell if that's metal or plastic, but it's got really good drag. There's no Bluetooth on this. There's no record functionality. It is a basic player, but the idea is that hopefully it is a good one. Portable stereo cassette player, all the regulatory stuff. Now you will see the absence of a pinhole on the back, which is a bit disappointing because that means that the motor is not easily adjustable, which is a major bummer. If we open this up again, you can see there is an indent here, which will be for an azimuth screw to adjust the azimuth of the head itself. So what I'm going to do is spend a couple of days playing with this. I'm filming this video in advance, mostly because I just can't wait to play with it. We just posted a show, but I didn't want to wait. I wanted to get into this as soon as possible. So I'm going to play with this, experience it, and get a good feel for the quality, and then come back in the next shot with my thoughts. Also, let's look at this. Did not know it was going to be coming with this accessory bag. So it's a case for it. Also in that same soft plastic. You can see the branding there. I'm not a huge case fan when it comes to electronics. I know a lot of vintage there's magnets that kind of hold it together. I know a lot of vintage radios and cameras would have these sort of leather type of cases to protect them. I don't like the look of it as much in a case. I kind of like it sort of bare metal, as it were. But let's go ahead and put it in. I appreciate they sent this because it is interesting. And it would protect it. Kind of negates the color that you chose, but it would protect the unit. It's got a good soft feel to it, a very soft leather. So, okay, I am going to do what I said and experience this, play a number of different types of tape on it, and give you my feedback, my input on what I think the quality is like. And then we will also do a direct feed sound test. Okay, it has been a few days, I think about 3 days or so, and I've spent a lot of time with this unit, and I like it. I really, really do like it. I was trying initially to avoid comparing it to other units and really take it on its own accord. But we're going to do a little side-by-side in a minute, and you'll see why. But first of all, I've been really surprised how much I like this case. And as I said, I'm not usually a fan of these cases, but I really like this. Although it did occur to me, you can't even, some cases are designed so you can even open the door of tape decks and things. This one you can't. It's kind of locked and loaded. So when it comes time to flip the tape over, it's not an auto reverse deck. You will need to open this up. But the magnetic closures are very satisfying. I mean, it's just, it's really tight and nice. It's got a very soft feel to it. So I've surprised myself. I really like the leather case. But let me take it out of the case for the purpose of the review here. I want to give you a few observations. It looks sharp. I do like the white. I wasn't sure if I would like the white, but I do. I think it looks slick. And this thing that I thought was a tool to remove the film from this, it's the opposite. This is actually a screen protector for that little plastic window there so it doesn't get scratched up. That's very, very cool. So yeah, I've listened to this with a number of different types, metal tapes, ferric oxide tapes, chrome tapes. It plays them all superbly. I've listened on earbuds, and I've listened on my studio monitors, these Monitor 80s. Who do these buy? I'm not sure who makes these things. One Audio. These are fantastic. These are my go-to good headphones. So I've listened on these. Again, it doesn't have Bluetooth, so there's no Bluetooth test to be done. And you may say to yourself, well, that's kind of basic, but I like that. It does one thing and it does it really, really well. Something weird that did happen over the last couple of days is I took a tape out and this little foam sticker was stuck to the tape. And I'm like, what on earth? So I opened it up, of course, and I'm like looking for an obvious missing spot. And I, so far, have not been able to find one. There's two similar down in these corners, but they're both intact. And I don't see really any others. So maybe, now that I'm saying that, it looks like I could see where maybe it went back in that corner. That came out, didn't affect any performance or anything. I will say this, just like the We Are Rewind unit, and we're going to take a look at them side by side in a minute, this tape stabilization isn't the greatest. So when you put a tape in, I feel like it's not held in as tightly as possible. And, you would look at this and say, well, it looks fine. It's got like the little, notches, and you put the tape in. But if you shake the unit at all while playing a tape, the wow and flutter goes nuts. It's like... And even if you are playing it like here and you turn it sideways, you'll hear it get muddy and then clear up again. And then you change it back, muddy, and clear up again. Just like the We Are Rewind. So I'm assuming that's tape stabilization. So it's not like a practical unit to go jogging with, because if this gets jostled, the sound's like... It just gets worse. It's kind of a set it and leave it alone kind of tape player. It does have a nice heavy brass flywheel inside. I haven't taken mine apart. It's not super serviceable from that standpoint. As you can see, this back panel is inset. So theoretically it could pop out. Or perhaps the way to do it is through the front like the We Are Rewind. You can actually adjust speed. Initially I didn't realize you can, but there's a video by Via Westlife where he does it. There's a little hard to reach, not at a straight angle trim pot right about down there. Obviously the azimuth control is reachable through that. Okay, let's talk about some of the comparisons size-wise between this and the We Are Rewind. I also want to say from a sound quality perspective, the FiiO and the We Are Rewind sound identical to me. They're both great. They both sound really, really, really good. Just don't shake them. Don't, do a bunch of this while you're listening to tapes, and you'll be fine. They sound really, really good, and I think that's because they use the same transport. They have the same head. Amplifiers are different. This has a weaker amplifier than this. This is a very powerful headphone amplifier, and you get a lot more volume from this. So if you're somebody that, really likes a loud device, and I know a lot of people do, this is perfect for you. I listen to tapes kind of at night, in the evening. I have it on kind of a lower level volume. So for me, it's not really an issue at all. But as you can see, Well, I have it off now, but usually my volume control for this has been like down in this range because that's all I need. Whereas this, it takes a little bit more volume. Yeah. By the way, this has the a knob, but it's like a side position slider knob, whereas this has the external knob. I kind of like this knob. It kind of feels like you're holding a little DAC or a little headphone amplifier on the side of this unit, and I do like that aesthetic. All right, from a size perspective, this thing is almost identical to the We Are Rewind in terms of width, height, and all dimensions except for length. And it pretty much is this little extension piece over here. As you can see, that's about the only difference size-wise. And by the way, I dinged up my We Are Rewind. I dropped it from about waist height. See that little mark on my finger? That's a bird bite. But yeah, that little ding there, I dropped it. And I was like, dang it, it's no longer perfect. That first scratch, that first ding always hurts the most. But yeah, another reason why it's good to have the case. Not that this would be super protective in a drop situation, but it probably would have prevented it from dinging. So yeah, that would be cool if they had this in the case. But I do like this a lot. There's no reason why I wouldn't grab for this. You don't have the Bluetooth function or record function that you do on this. The record function, almost never use that. But the Bluetooth is handy from time to time. And you may be saying, well, it negates the whole point of analog audio. Not really, because digital ultimately becomes analog again anyway before you can hear it. But I wanted to kind of show that side by side a little bit. But the video is about the FiiO, so let's focus on this. We're going to listen to it, and when I do that, it's going to be a direct feed. And I'm not just going to play it in its ultimate, like the best circumstances. I'm also going to do the shaking so you can hear what I'm talking about. But that being said, the fidelity is amazing. It sounds great. There's no Dolby in any of these anymore, but it plays back a Dolby encoded tape just fine. It plays back metal tape, chrome tape, any kind of tape, ferric oxide, you name it. So that's pretty much it for the FiiO, aside from the sound test. So let me go ahead and hook that direct feed up, and we'll give it a listen. Behold the tools of the trade for making a direct feed. So we've got the tape player, we've got a tape. I'm going to be using Emil's telegraphic transmission device. They sent me this tape, and it's a great demo tape because it is copyright friendly in the YouTube world. So I appreciate that. Plus, it's a professionally recorded quality tape. This will be a type 1 ferric oxide tape. The mixture is your typical, on the darker side, brown. So good quality tape. I'm going to be using the Zoom H2N handy recorder as I usually do. Thankfully, as I've described before, this has not an issue, but a limitation that the line input is really a mic input. So I need a headphone amplifier. So the fact this has a built-in headphone amplifier, obviously, is a good thing. I'll be using a Lexar SD card adapter and a Micro Center micro SD card. 32 gig, class 10. Am I just making filler content at this point? I don't know. Some people might find this interesting. So let me go ahead and hook it up. Oh yeah, and a wire. We need a cable. We need a cable, right? Let me get this all hooked up, and we'll do the sound test. And again, I'll shake it and kind of give you that real world experience.
Through space and through time, it's our purpose to define. Through space and through time, it's our purpose. And when the world shuts down and our bodies will fall up from the ground, then nothing can stop us from moving on. And when the atmosphere
Okay, at the end of the day, this is just as good as the We Are Rewind. I would say they are very, very much on par with each other from a build quality and sound quality standpoint. Obviously, this one has a little bit more features. It's more expensive too. This is more affordable. I have links in the description below because I would recommend it. And people may say, oh, it's got a Tanishin clone mechanism, therefore it's instantly junk. That is misinformation. That is not accurate. That mechanism is a baseline. It can be made good or bad, depending on the head chosen, the amplification used, etc., etc. The transport does not dictate the quality of the unit. And in this case, it is implemented very, very well. And it is not cheap. The build quality is fantastic. This is heavy. It's metal. And it just does a great job. And it's, again, very similar to this in a lot of ways. So if you are looking for a modern cassette player, is brand new and has some of these, bells and whistles like rechargeable battery, et cetera, then this would be a good fit if you want Bluetooth and, maybe look at other units. But this is a cool product and I would recommend it absolutely. As always, want to hear your thoughts as well. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this show. It was a lot of fun putting it together and want to hear your comments, like I was saying, about not only this unit, but portable cassette players and recorders. Do you use them still? What's your use case? What kind of examples can you give us of when you like to do that? I personally listen to cassettes. I just listened to cassettes last night. So all the time, I really, really enjoy the format. It's a physical media, and it has a lot of the same attributes that vinyl does. Analog sound, physical form factor, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that makes me a little nervous about tape is they do break. In fact, the day before, was it yesterday or the day before, I was listening to a Peggy Lee tape I had, and it snapped. So I had to go in there to do some repair work, but it was a clamshell design that did not have screws. So I had to use the pry method with a knife around the edges, and at the very last bit, the whole thing disintegrated. So I've got a reel of tape that I now have to reshell. That is a pain, and it can happen at any time. That was on a high-end Yamaha deck too. So it kind of makes me nervous. Analog tape does, because it is so fragile. But when it works, it's a very fun thing. And I don't mind the absence of Dolby either in this day and age. The little bit of hiss is kind of a nice aesthetic to me. Maybe that's weird, but I remember that back in the day, it's like we were chasing any solution to, rid yourself of hiss, higher end tape mixtures, Dolby, obviously noise reduction technologies. But today, it just doesn't bother me at all. Because if I want a crystal clear representation of something, I'm going to go to a digital source. And that's all there is to it. So a little bit of analog hiss, not a problem for me. What about you? Let me know in the comments down below. Again, new merch is out. Check out the merch shelf. Consider joining our membership program, all that fun stuff. My friends, that's going to do it for today. So happy record hunting, and we'll see you next time.